Hi everyone, this is Mrs. J, and I'm doing a read aloud of I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai with Patricia McCormick. And we're on to Chapter 12, A Schoolgirl's Diary. After the 15th of January, no girl, whether big or little, shall go to school. Otherwise, you know what we can do, and the parents and the school principal will be responsible. That was the news that came over the Radio Mullah in late December 2008. At first, I thought it was just another one of his crazy pronouncements. It was the 21st century. How could one man stop more than 50,000 girls from going to school? I am a hopeful person. My friends say maybe I'm too hopeful, maybe even a little crazy, but I simply did not believe this man could stop us. School was our right. We debated his edict in class. Who will stop him? The other girls said. The Taliban have already blown up hundreds of schools and no one has done anything. We will, I say. We will call on our government to come and end this madness. The government, one girl said. The government can't even shut down Fazlulah's radio station. The debate went round and round. I didn't give in. But even to me, my argument sounded a bit thin. One by one, girls stopped coming to school. Their fathers forbade them. Their brothers forbade them. Within days, we had gone from 27 girls in our grade to 10. I was sad and frustrated, but I also understood. In our culture, girls do not defy the males in their families. And I realized that fathers and brothers and uncles who made my friends stay home were doing so out of concern for their safety. It was hard not to feel a bit depressed sometimes, not to feel as though the families who kept the girls at home were simply surrendering to Fazlullah. But whenever I'd catch myself giving into the feeling of defeat, I'd have one of my talks with God. Help us appreciate the school days that are left to us, God, and give us the courage to fight even harder for more. School had been due to end the first week of January for our usual winter break, so my father decided to postpone the holiday. We would remain in classes through the 14th of January. That way we could squeeze in every minute left to us. The 10 remaining girls in my class lingered in the courtyard every day after school, in case these were our last chances to be together. At home in the evenings, I wondered what I would do with my life if I couldn't go to school. One of the girls at school had gotten married off before Fazlullah's edict. She was 12. I knew my parents wouldn't do that to me, but I wondered, what would I do? Spend the rest of my life indoors, out of sight, with no TV to watch and no books to read? How would I complete my studies and become a doctor, which was my greatest hope at the time? I played with my shoebox dolls and thought the Taliban wanted to turn the girls of Pakistan into identical lifeless dolls. While we girls savored the days until January 15th, Fazlullah struck again and again. The previous year had been hard, but the days of January 2009 were among the darkest of our lives. Every morning, someone arrived at school with a story about another killing, sometimes two, sometimes three a night. Fazlullah's men killed a woman in Mangora because they said she was doing fahashi, or being indecent, because she was a dancer. And then they killed a man in the valley because he refused to wear his pants short the way the Taliban did. And now we would be forbidden from going to school. One afternoon, I heard my father on the phone. All the teachers have refused, he said. They are too afraid, but I can see what I can do. He hung up and rushed out of the house. A friend who worked at the BBC, the powerful British Broadcasting Corporation network, had asked him to find someone from the school to write a diary about life under the Taliban for his Urdu website, a teacher or an older student. All the teachers had said no, but Miriam's younger sister, Aisha, one of the older girls, had agreed. The next day we had a visitor, Aisha's father. He would not allow his daughter to tell her story. It's too risky, he said. My father didn't argue with him. The Taliban were cruel, but even they wouldn't hurt a child, he wanted to say. But he respected Aisha's father's decision and prepared to call the BBC with the bad news. I was only 11, but I said, why not me? I knew he'd wanted someone older, not a child. I looked at my father's hopeful, nervous face. He had been so brave for speaking out. It was one thing to talk to national and local media, but this diary might be read by people outside of Pakistan. It was the BBC, after all. My father had always stood by me. Could I stand by him? I knew without even thinking that I could. I would do anything to be able to continue to go to school. But first we went to my mother. If she was afraid, I wouldn't do it, because if I didn't have her support, it would be like speaking with only half of my heart. But my mother agreed, and she gave us her answer in a verse from the Holy Quran. Falsehood has to die, she said, and truth has to come forward. God would protect me, she said, because my mission was a good one. Many people in SWAT saw danger everywhere they looked, but our family didn't look at life like that. We saw possibility, and we felt a responsibility to stand up for our homeland. My father and I are the starry-eyed ones. Things have to get better, we always said. My mother is our rock. While our heads are high in the sky, her feet are on the ground. But we all believed in hope. Speaking up is the only way things will get better, she said. I had never written a diary before, and I didn't even know how to begin. So the BBC correspondent said he would help me. He had to call me on my mother's phone because even though we had a computer, there were frequent power cuts and a few places in Mangora with internet access. The first time he called, he told me he was using his wife's phone because his own phone had been bugged by intelligence services. He suggested that I use a fake name so the Taliban wouldn't know who was writing the diary. I didn't want to change my name, but he was worried about my safety. That was why he chose a pseudonym for me, Gul Makai, which means cornflower, and it's the name of a heroine in a Pashtun folktale. My first diary entry appeared on the 3rd of January 2009, about 2 weeks before Fazlulah's deadline. The title was I Am Afraid. I wrote about how hard it was to study or to sleep at night with the constant sounds of fighting in the hills outside of town. I described how I walked to school each morning looking over my shoulder for fear a Talib would follow me. I was writing from the privacy of my bedroom using a secret identity, but thanks to the internet, the story of what was happening in SWAT was there for the whole world to see. It was as if God had at long last granted my wish for a magic pencil. In my next entry, I wrote about how school was the center of my life and how proud I was to walk the streets of Mingora in my school uniform. As exciting as it was to be Gul Makai, it was hard not to tell anyone, especially at school. The diary of this anonymous Pakistani schoolgirl was all anyone talked about. One girl even printed it out and showed it to my father. "It's very good," he said with a knowing smile. With the threat of school closing quickly becoming a reality, I appreciated going even more. In the days leading up to the last one, it was decided that wearing our uniforms was too dangerous, so we were told to dress in our everyday clothes. I decided I wasn't going to cower in fear of Fazlulah's wrath. I would obey the instruction about the uniform, but that day I chose my brightest pink shalwar kameez. As soon as I left the house, I thought for a second about turning back. We heard stories of people having throwing acid in the faces of girls in Afghanistan. It hadn't happened here yet, but with everything that had happened, it didn't seem impossible. But somehow my feet carried me forward all the way to school. What a peculiar place Mingora had become. Gunfire and cannons as background noise. Hardly any people in the streets, and if you did see anyone, you couldn't help but think, this person could be a terrorist. And a girl in a pink shalwar kameez sneaking off to school. The BBC correspondent asked for more news from SWAT for the next diary post. I didn't know what to tell him. He asked me to write about the killings. It seemed so obvious to him that this was the news. But to me, what you experience every day is no longer news. It was as if I had become immune to fear, until one day on my way home from school, I heard a man behind me saying, "I will kill you." My heart stopped, but somehow my feet kept going. I quickened my pace until I was far ahead of him. I ran home, shut the door, and after a few seconds, peeked out at him. There he was, oblivious to me, shouting at someone on his phone. I laughed a bit at myself. Malala, I told myself, there are real things to be afraid of. You don't need to imagine danger when there is none. The real worry, it seemed to me, was being found out, and of course it was Moniba who had first to guess the identity of Gul Makai. I read a diary in the newspaper, she told me one day at recess, and the story sounded like our story, what happens in our school. "It's you, isn't it?" she said. I could not lie, not to Moniba. But when I confessed, she became more angry than ever. "How can you say you were my best friend when you're keeping such an important secret from me?" She turned on her heel and left. And yet I knew, as angry as she wouldn't reveal my secret. It was my father who did that, by accident, of course. He was telling a reporter how terrifying it was for children just to walk to and from school. His own daughter, he said, thought a man on his phone had threatened to kill her. Just about everyone recognized the story from the diary, and by April, my days as Gul Makai, the secret diarist, would be over. But the diary had done its job. Now a number of reporters were following the story of Fazlullah's attempt to shut down girls' schools in Pakistan, including a man from the New York Times.